back to the shop. Today we are going to build a locking mechanism. I really don't even know what you call it. It's a protective lock box. So as you know, I just recently purchased a new tractor, and I did a little bit of searching online, and tractors are notorious for being stolen, especially brand new ones. You know, they're bright and shiny, and everybody knows they're new. Everybody knows what they're worth. They know they're valuable. The big thing is they're not trackable. You can't get a license plate tied to a tractor. You don't register a tractor. It does have some serial numbers on it, but if anybody finds it, it's pretty much a long shot, because you could just grind those serial numbers off, and there's just no way of tracking them. And I highly doubt anybody's going out looking for your tractor if you actually were to call and file a report. Nobody's looking for your tractor. Nobody cares. Nobody cares except for you. So I'm going to add a little bit extra protection. Now, overall, there is no better protection than insurance. Getting some good insurance, having a good insurance policy that will cover the full cost of the tractor if it does get stolen. Now, along with that, there are some things that you can do. So first off, number one thing I'm going to do is build a lock box. So the idea around this box is I'm gonna lay down a concrete pier, and I'm going to sink this into the top of the concrete. I'm gonna weld the top of this, cap it off, and then I'm gonna cut a hole. I'm going to mill a hole out right in here, and then I'm going to drill a hole here and drill a hole here. So what this is going to allow me to do is run my chain through it, and then be able to stick my hands inside here and lock it with a padlock. What that will help is anybody with a grinder can cut a padlock off, or a bolt cutter. It will prevent anybody from being able to access the actual lock itself, so that you can't get a grinder or a padlock to it. Also, it will protect the padlock from obstructions, anything like that. And the other thing, I've been thinking about this for a while, but the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this chain and I'm gonna weld it to the back side of this wall. And the reason for that is because I'm gonna loop this around the axle on both sides. So on one side, it'll loop around the axle, it'll come in. The other side, loop around the axle, will come in, and it'll get padlocked in the center. So the center of this is pretty protected. What's vulnerable is the chain sticking out. Now, somebody can stretch this out, take a grinder, and grind this through. Now, it's going to be pretty tough to cut this with bolt cutters, but if they do, they have to do it on both sides. Because it's going to be welded inside, and it's going to be locked with a padlock, if they cut one side off, they're going to have to go to the other side and cut the other side off. So it's just double the work. Versus having a single point of failure, which would be the padlock. If somebody could cut the padlock, open everything up, that's a single point of failure. By building this around it, I'm building 3 points of contact. I guess 3 points of protection. I'm protecting the padlock, I'm protecting the right side of the axle, I'm protecting the left side of the axle. So if you want to be able to steal this tractor, you've got to go through a couple extra hurdles, a couple extra obstacles. Now, along with that, there are some other things you can do that I will probably do eventually. It's just going to take time. So number one is keep it in the shop, keep it in the shed or in a barn, and keep that locked up. That's great. It keeps a tractor out of the visibility from the public. But everybody knows there are valuable things in a shed. There are valuable things in a barn. It's not just horses and hay. Everybody knows that there's money tied up inside of whatever it is that you're keeping in a shop. So though a shop itself becomes a target. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my tractor out back And eventually I'm going to build a lean-to over it, but it's surrounded by trees. So when you drive past it, you really can't even see it off of the road. Now whenever I build a lean-to, we'll see. I'm going to try and build the lean-to as low as possible so that it has just enough clearance for the tractor or maybe like a pickup truck. But I want to keep it as low as possible, keep it underneath behind the trees where you can't see it. So eventually I will build that. Another thing you can do is have a cutoff switch, an electrical cutoff switch to the ignition. And basically that's two keys for your, using two keys or a button for your tractor. So you would place a hidden switch somewhere along the tractor so that when you go to start the tractor, it will not start unless that hidden switch has been activated or powered, allowing the power to access the ignition to start the tractor. Another option is a fuel cutoff. So this tractor does have a pitcock, which is a fuel cutoff, but it's fairly visible and fairly noticeable, and anybody with half a brain would be able to find it and turn it back on. Even though most robbers don't have much of a brain, there are a few professionals out there. There are professional tractor thieves that are very schooled up on different tractors and operations, and they know exactly what to do whenever they get in there, just like any other object of value. There are specialists out there that do target tractors. But building in a pitcock or a fuel shutoff somewhere within the tractor is another obstacle they would have to overcome. And then the last one I heard of is a battery cutoff. So building in the tractor somewhere a battery shutoff. So if you were to do all that, you're disconnecting power completely. You're disconnecting the ability to start the engine, and you're disconnecting the ability to be able to get fuel to the motor. So those are three things within the tractor you could do. So that would be a lot to overcome, and it would take you quite a while to find all those issues on top of cutting it loose. How many of those I'm going to do, I'm not sure yet. I may do one or two of those. I'm not quite sure yet, but this was the quick insurance that I wanted to go ahead and get in place along with my policy. So with that, this is going to be a pretty simple build. Cut a couple holes, weld it in place, cap it off, shove it in the ground. We're good to go. But I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be easy. I think it's going to be very useful, beneficial. And I don't really know that I've ever seen anything like this. I looked all through the web. I looked all through the internet to try and find something like this, and I just couldn't find anything. If you know of something, let me know. Drop a link or a comment down below in the comments and let me know what you got or ideas that you have or something that you've seen before or a picture of something that you've got. I'd like to see it. The only place I've seen something like this close to this is on like a pipe fence gate. You might have and they usually use a big piece of pipe where they latch the gate and the pipe, you go inside of the pipe to lock it. And then like containers, big industrial containers, they will have some type of a locking cover so that you could stick the lock inside of that cover and then lock it down, and usually the cover is a square box. So that's really all I could find. I couldn't find anything else to help me get my thoughts together on how I was going to build this, so I basically thought about this whole thing just from scratch, just off the top of my head. But I think I've got a good idea of what I want it to do, what it's going to look like. So with that, let's go ahead and get started.